Hi, everyone. I'm Sree Sreenivasan, and I'm the Marshall Loeb Visiting Professor of Digital Innovation at Stony Brook School of Journalism. Welcome to Stony Brook University. Well, I'm actually on the Upper West Side, and I am missing my campus and my school, but it's my honor to be here with you all today. We are so thrilled that we can present to you the first ever Marshall R. Loeb Lecture, made possible by a generous gift from his children, Michael and Margaret Loeb. The fund makes it possible to have this Michael R. Loeb Visiting Professorship in Digital Innovation and Audience Engagement. And we are so grateful to all of you for being here as well, whether you're watching live or later. Please tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We're live on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube. And we would love to hear your thoughts about the topic of digital innovation. I'm going to be talking about what comes next, things I have learned in the last few months of the pandemic. To get us started, here is a greeting from the president of Stony Brook University, Maury McInnes.
Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the first annual Marshall R. Loeb Lecture, coming to you from Stony Brook University School of Journalism. This incredible gift from Margaret and Michael Loeb will further enable the School of Journalism to realize its goals of promoting groundbreaking news, communication with integrity, and innovation in the world of journalism. Our School of Journalism is dedicated to a relentless pursuit of the truth and pushing beyond the status quo in order to understand the intricacies of our world. Not only are public interest, inclusion, and a commitment to social and economic justice ingrained into our practices, they are also the driving force behind what makes our school so special. The legacy of Marshall R. Loeb could not be better aligned with this unique program. We are driven to make a real difference for our students and community, and the Marshall R. Loeb Visiting Professorship in Digital Communication and Audience Engagement has become integral to that effort. As the landscape of education, journalism, media, and communication rapidly evolve, and the future comes barreling to meet us, the inaugural Marshall R. Loeb Lecture with Sree Sreenivasan could not feel more timely or important. We are every day examining the ways in which we can both continue our pursuit of excellence in higher learning and adapt to a new, bold future. For this reason especially, I am so happy that the School of Journalism's creativity and digital expertise has enabled us to offer you this very special program today. Whether through remote programming or in-person lectures or some future innovation that pushes beyond our current understanding of what's possible, Stony Brook will continue to learn, grow, communicate, seek the truth, push boundaries, and share. Thank you all for helping us do just that. Enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you, President McInnes. So grateful to have you on campus now as our new president. And because the Loeb Visiting Professorship is part of the Journalism School at Stony Brook, let me now introduce Laura Lindenfeld, the Dean of the School of Journalism, Executive Director of the Alda Center for Communicating Science, and also Vice Provost for Academic Strategy and Planning. Hi, Laura.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Sree. So good to see you. I hope everyone's well. I'm so grateful to President McInnes for supporting both the School of Journalism and this specific event to honor Marshall Loeb and the generosity of Marshall's son and daughter, Michael and Margaret Loeb. We'll hear from Michael in a little bit. The Marshall Loeb Visiting Professorship is currently held by Sree Sreenivasan, who is our fabulous host today and our first Loeb Lecture. We are so pleased to have such a knowledgeable, experienced, dynamic, and well-known expert on digital journalism on our faculty to teach our students and take the Loeb name with him wherever he goes, and that's all over the world. Although this event is focused on digital innovation, it's within the context of the field of journalism and our current pandemic. For our School of Journalism, this means that faculty, staff, and students have had to adjust to the seismic changes in the field, learning new technologies, understanding how to apply their knowledge in a creative context, and how to connect with sources during the pandemic. I'm so pleased with what all of our students, faculty, and staff have been doing. It's amazing. Despite, or perhaps because of these challenges, the School of Journalism has managed to thrive in this moment of creative adjustment. In fact, we've added a new advanced graduate certificate in communicating science to our repertoire. We see an increasing need in the world for great journalism, and more broadly, for great communication. It's imperative for the health of our democracy to prepare so carefully and thoughtfully the next generation of reporters and communication specialists, and to support factual and diverse storytelling. Our Stony Brook School of Journalism is definitely handling that challenge. I encourage you to explore our website, read our students' stories, and see how we're engaging journalism and communication in this new age. And now I'm going to turn it back to Sree. He's one of the first and continues to be the best media professionals to use and harness social and digital media to empower understanding and to show us what effective communication looks like. With Sree alongside the School of Journalism, we are working to reimagine what it means to educate and train journalists, media professionals, and communication experts for an increasingly digital world in which accurate, ethical, and widely available information is the most important thing in society. Thank you for joining us. Sree, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you very much, Laura. And thank you for an incredible year and a half since I've been on campus and virtually. This has been life-changing and what I call hashtag life highlight. I recommend everybody keep track of their life highlights, and this is one. So thank you, and thank you for your leadership.
It's been a blast. We're so honored to have you.
See you later. And now we have one final very special guest before I give you my remarks. Our guest is Michael Loeb, who we have invited to talk more personally about his father, Marshall, and his reasons for supporting the School of Journalism. Michael is the CEO of Loeb.nyc and a leader in so many aspects of New York and digital and other kinds of innovation. We're so grateful to Michael and his family for the support of the School of Journalism. And when someone says, you know, we couldn't do this without you, I could not do this without Michael Loeb. I would not be here with you today if it weren't for Michael. Michael Loeb, thank you so much. And let's chat a little bit, Michael. Michael, you might be muted, Michael. So we'll get that fixed in just a second, folks. Please tweet this right now. We're using the hashtag Loeb SBU, Loeb SBU is our hashtag. We're live right now on all the social platforms. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and we're on Twitter. Please hit share so your friends and family can join us. I'll be sharing my thoughts on where we are with the pandemic and what comes next. Okay, here we go with Michael.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, fantastic. So I liked your opening remarks, but it makes me responsible. So assuming that you had a great reception, that's a good thing. But on the other hand, then it's my fault. But I will tell you that our family is steeped in journalism, and journalism is very, very important to our family.
Michael, can I just interrupt
Yes.
for 1 second? So sorry, I think we'd love for you to look at the other camera. You can see that we're now over on this side. There you go. There you go. There you go.
All right, good. Sorry about that. So we all have adjustments here for this. So I would say that journalism, Sree, has been very important to our family. And my dad started down the path of journalism when he was about 15, and he started writing articles. And he was a newspaper man, and then he joined Time Inc. Indeed, I was born in St. Louis when he was working for the St. Louis Globe-Democrat, and then he scored the job of all jobs at Time magazine. He then went on to become the managing editor of Money magazine, also a Time Inc. property, and then Fortune magazine for about his last 10 years there. Front to back, Time Inc. was about 40 years for him. Then went on to edit the Columbia Journalism Review, and then worked for Market Watch and others. My dad was fond of saying, when answering the question, when would you retire? And he said, in a box. And that was just about true. And that is because he loved his craft and he loved informing people. And that mission is, of course, anniversaried and carried on by the journalism school, or as my family would call it, the J School at Stony Brook. He would be quite proud of your work. My dad was ahead of his time when it came to being a journalist, and had many, many inventions, particularly with Fortune magazine and the use of graphs and color. And he had a famous saying, which is, the word will survive, whether it's in paper or digital, he's not so sure. And that turned out to be very, very prescient. The other thing about our family is that I too worked at Time Inc. Although I worked on the business side, I was not talented enough. So I'm envious of all of you to become a journalist. So I ran kind of the numbers of a magazine. My sister was Margaret, who also is a contributor. Worked at Time Inc. and then worked at the Wall Street Journal before becoming a consultant for McKinsey. So journalism has been part of the family for a long time. My dad was famous for bringing to our house, first in Queens and then later Scarsdale, the ambassador to, a country that you never heard of but ended in Stan. Or the prime minister or something like that. And that would be our dinner company and dinner conversation. So he took very seriously the notion of discourse, information. This was a very different era. In fact, in 1961 or two, John F. Kennedy, when asked what is the most important institution in America, he said Time magazine. Today it would be Google, which gives you an illustration of the transformation. But the thing that Marshall would be very proud of, and the thing that has never been in greater need, is to report the truth and to report it accurately. And we only have to take one look at CNN and then turn over to Fox and just see how one issue could be told in such a way that it seems like two different stories. The other thing about Marshall that he would be very proud of, with respect to Stony Brook, is that one of the features of Stony Brook is about economic mobility. And my dad was the product of, a very poor family living in Chicago. And he pulled himself up through journalism by his bootstraps. And so he would be able to connect to the students very, very effectively and very empathetically, because he himself started at a lower rung and was able to move way up the ladder, and also see his son and his daughter exceed his greatest ambitions for us doing what we do. So I am very pleased and proud of the work that journalists do. It is a not only very important profession, but it can be very dangerous. And today, we got to be particularly steadfast in being protectors of the truth. And we certainly cannot have nearly enough people doing that in this day and age. So he would be very proud. I'm very proud. My sister and I are great supporters and sponsors. And we really appreciate all the work that you're doing at the journalism school. And Sree, we want to thank you in particular to be such a passionate supporter of the school and also the craft of journalism.
Thank you so much, Michael. I have to tell you that Marshall had a big influence in my life before this. As you know, we worked together at Columbia Journalism School, and then he would occasionally call me for a soundbite when he was writing his Market Watch column, and he would call me, you know, a leading digital so-and-so, and I think that helped me get this job. So I'm grateful for that too.
Right. Well, you know, sometimes Marshall had to bend the truth. No, I'm just thinking about that. But
before we let you go, I do have before we let you go, I just want to ask you a couple of quick questions. One is, you work with so many startups that are in your collective as well as outside, and everyone should check out loeb.nyc and follow them on Twitter as well. And follow Michael. He's real Michael Loeb on Twitter. What are you saying to them in the middle of this crisis? How have you all come through? Because I've watched, it was so impressive how you kept these startups going, and these often young people and not so young people motivated through all of this.
That is a great question, and it is so interesting. And I will share one thing that I got from a woman by the name of Carolyn Everson. And Carolyn is number 3, 4, or 5 at Facebook. And we had a conversation, I would say back in about April. And she's a great person to talk to because Facebook is in every country around the globe and of course, in great numbers. So if there's any signal, it's going to be picked up on Facebook and picked up pretty quickly. And her diagnosis is that there has been a 10-year acceleration towards the future. And it is so interesting, but I speak to you from my office. That is a rarity, and that is because myself and all my colleagues got very accustomed very quickly to working from home. And I always thought that meant somebody was polishing up in their golf game. But truth is, there's a lot of benefits from working from home, a lot of efficiencies to be gained. And I think the world is going to tilt in that direction. Many of our companies, and we got about 24 that we are building, many of these are de novo and our ideas. Some are ideas from the outside, some are very early stage companies that we kind of take over. But you see that change, that acceleration. Anything that is digital centric, anything that is home delivered has done very, very well. Things that I have a business in travel tech, not so well. A business in real estate tech, also that's been challenged. Event tech, likewise, been challenged. Everything has the last name tech these days. So in terms of the future, the word has never been more important. Being able to tell a story, to explain your product, because people don't have the benefit of being able to touch it quite the way they used to. So being able to describe it and make it real and be able to gain a consumer's confidence has never been more important. So I think there's been big changes already. There's more to come. When we endure an episode like this, and nothing has been quite like this, but if you think back to 2000 and 2008, some of the great opportunities are unmasked during that period, and some of the great companies have been built in the wake of the detritus of a recession. And certainly I would argue that we're in one now. So giant opportunities for journalists. And the world is going to change. I wished I was smart enough to predict exactly how, but I can give you the assurance that it will.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm very grateful to you and to your entire family and to your team for the support and welcome they have given me in my new adventures here at Stony Brook. So thank you very much, Michael. We'll let you get on with your day, and I know I will send you a copy of the show after.
Yes.
So I'd love to.
And thank you again, Sree, for your dedication. And it's really amazing how active you are and the stuff that you pack into a 24-hour day. It takes most people 224 hours, but it's really quite amazing. And your advocacy and how you try and mentor and teach young people, and the seriousness which you go about all that is really not only commendable, but also you're very much a leader in your field. And your work is really something to marvel at. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. And Michael, we'll see you later. Thanks very much.
Okay.
All
right.
What do you say when someone says such nice things? Very hard to process, but I'm going to try. And my job is to make Michael feel good about his father's legacy. His father changed journalism with the way he changed magazines. And I'm trying to do my small part in trying to keep the Marshall Loeb flag flying high. And we have people watching from all over the world. We love to see your comments. Kayla is one of my students. She's watching. We have Alexandra watching as well. And Professor Selwyn is watching. So tell us where you're watching from. Tell us your questions. What do you think about what's happening in the world of innovation and journalism? We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to have your thoughts. We're using the hashtag LoebSBU. We'd love you to tweet, but also just post in YouTube or Twitter or on Facebook. Okay, so now I'm going to take off my MC hat and put on my lecturer hat and talk to you about what comes next. So let me, we have some slides that I'm going to use as a kind of launching point for our conversations, but that's all they are. They are not meant to be, this is meant to be a chance for you to kind of reflect with me and kind of build this talk together in a way. We'd love to see your comments. Just post what are you thinking about, and we'll try to share as many of those comments at the end of the lecture. I hope to go for about 20, 25 minutes now, and then take some of your questions as well. So let's get the slides going, and we are now ready to talk to all of you about this topic of what comes next. And so what I've put together are these very bright slides, as you can see, and we want to talk about lessons from the pandemic about innovation. And I also have the slides available to you at Sree Loeb, bit.ly/Sree Loeb. So if you'd like to find the slides and have access to them, you can. You also see a QR code. So if you know how to use your QR code reader, or if you just have your iPhone, you can use that. Use your camera to get the presentation. I'm hoping this is one of multiple chances for us to talk and connect. You have on the screen my email address, my Twitter handle, my Instagram, my LinkedIn, my newsletter that I write every week about what's my take on all things digital, and also all my favorite social media tips in one page. Our presentation is interactive in the sense that you can click on everything if you have the slides with you, and that's bit.ly/Sree Loeb. The hashtag is LoebSBU, hashtag LoebSBU. So I am going to share my thoughts and looking forward to hearing yours as we go through these next few minutes together. So let's start by just sharing with you this photo of me and Michael, and a photo of Marshall Loeb. One of the most influential magazine editors in the industry was what the New York Times called Marshall. And that's the legacy that I am trying to live up to every day. And it is such an honor to fly that Marshall Loeb flag, as I said. When I joined Stony Brook a year ago, it was a very different time, a very different country, a very different world. And I'm going to reflect on that as we go through here. I put together an epic tweet through an epic thread of tweet threads. So dozens of tweets that I've put together that tell my story at Stony Brook. And I use the hashtag there as well, LoebSBU. And one of the things that I'm looking onto the campus photograph right now in the football stadium, just really missing the energy that comes from being with students and being with other people. And I'm a little bit jealous that Michael's in an office already where with safely distant people are there now. And I think that's really good that we're starting to see people come back. But we need to note that everybody who's watching, please pay attention to the local rules. We know there are people all over the country watching now. Local rules around masking and social distancing. We in New York were watching in horror with the rest of the world what was happening in China and then Italy, and then it came here. And then we were the epicenter of the world. And then we watched in horror as the rest of the country became places where the epicenter was. And we continue to have such a tremendous amount of changes and disruption, things that we haven't seen since World War II. Whenever I teach, I start with ABC. Always be charging your phone and your laptops. I have 2 laptops here and a phone. Always be charging. I think this is even more important during the pandemic. Always be connecting is about the importance of connecting with your friends and family through the times of pandemic and doing everything you can, but also connecting with people you don't know on social who you should. So using tools like LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, you can connect. So I hope you'll connect with our president at SBU Prez, Prez. You can connect with our dean at Laura Lindenfeld, with Michael Loeb at Real Michael Loeb, and with me at Sree. Just getting into the habit of connecting with people when you don't need them so that they can be there when you need them is really important. And always be collecting is about the importance of using your phone as a collection device, as a storytelling device, but you can also use it to just do screen grabs of things you see that are interesting, and also learning how to collect things in screenshots, to do screenshots when we're spending so much time online together. One of the most useful things I can do for all of you is to invite you to my closed Facebook group that I have. Thousands of people who work in social media around the world and digital media. And you can just search on Facebook for Sree's Advanced Social, and you can find the group there and ask to join. And there are very senior executives from Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. And so you ask a question, there'll be always somebody somewhere in the world who'll answer your questions. So please do ask to join Sree's Advanced Social. You heard very nice things said about me by both the dean, the president, and then of course later by Michael as well. But I want you to know that life isn't always your bio. Your life isn't always what you say in terms of, well, I was a professor at Columbia for 20 years. I was the chief digital officer at Columbia University. I was the chief digital officer of the Metropolitan Museum and the city of New York, 3 fabulous jobs. But we are learning through the crisis what happens when things get disrupted. And I had that disruption happen to me. And I was able to use social media when the Met ran into money problems in 2016 to use social media to try to bounce back. And I learned so much in that process. That's why I always recommend to everyone who's watching to please work on your social media game so that it's there when you need it. If you're not, and you have to practice when you don't need it. You also see a QR code there that allows you to get access to a 200 post Twitter thread of my thoughts on job loss, careers, job hunting, interviewing, all of that you can find if you use that QR code. And one of the things that I will share at the end of this presentation is my own journey with QR codes, which starts with my saying to multiple people, I hate QR codes. And so then you'll say, Sree, why do you have a QR code here? Why do you have a QR code at the start of the slides? Well, that's because people change. And that's also so important for us to keep an open mind about everything. One of my former colleagues, Sig Gisler, used to say, keep an open mind, but don't let your brains fall out. And that's one of my many sayings and mottos that I've borrowed. So let's get to it and tell you about a question that several people have said to me. They've said, aren't you glad that everything you've talked about for 25 years has come true in the pandemic? And I say, not at the cost of the end of the world. And this is really the mixed situation we're in. People like me who have advocated for digital media, for social media, have seen people be resistant to change at universities, at nonprofits, at governments, inside governments, inside private companies. And now people see the value of everything being digital to a point, right? I used to always call myself a digital evangelist and a digital skeptic, and I believe you can be both. And so for anyone who thinks that those of us who've been pushing for change are happy that our predictions have come true or things have come true, I know that every single one of us, or at least most of us, would be so glad to give everything back and go back into what I always say, 5-10 years down the line of where things are going to change, and that line kept moving. I would give that all back so that we could have every single person we've lost, every single person who's struggling with their health now, and to think about all the people who have lost their jobs. I know what it's like, as I said, to have one person lose their job and how that affects family, friends. Even my dry cleaner was affected by my not having a job. And then we're in a time when tens of millions of Americans are without jobs. And we need to really pay attention to them and to help in every way we can. So what comes next? This is a question that's inspired by Hamilton. You might have been like me, binge watching Hamilton on Disney Plus through the summer, as I did. I'd seen the musical in person, but I was lucky to do that. But I did watch it on endless repeat. The songs, the story. I'm so kind of obsessed with Hamilton. I would love to hear from any Hamilton fans in the audience. And but it also shows us a couple of lessons in about innovation itself. You saw that Disney decided to prepone. I don't know if that's a word. I've always meant to check that, and I'm with professors of journalism who will certainly correct me, to bring forward the film version of their musical into the summer, and that was a very smart move for them. While theaters reopened, while theaters are getting settled, and people are trying to figure out the new normal. And one of the things that I'm always thinking about with this is that you don't really know what comes next, and no one knows. So I don't know. No one knows. I like to say it after me. No one knows. No one knows. There is no playbook. And the title of this talk is called What Comes Next? What are Lessons? So I will share some of those lessons, but you should know that no one knows. Even the sainted Dr. Fauci, who is so amazing and who I am relying on for as much information as I can get, doesn't know where we go, doesn't know what's next. And so if anyone tells you that they are confident in an answer about almost anything now, you have to be wary and be careful, because anyone who speaks with certainty is likely doesn't know the answer himself or herself. So let me start with some lessons. One of the lessons I learned is that our university is resilient. In the middle of the pandemic, we were thrown in, as was every other university and school in the world, into going live with classes remotely. Everybody had 2 days to figure it out. And I'm so proud of my colleagues, the administration, everybody who pulled together at a time that, if you think back 6 months where we were, I just can't think about that in terms of how difficult it was for all of us, because we were going from that campus-centric life to not just virtual-centric life, but fully virtual life. And all over the world, we saw resilience. We also saw, of course, disparities. And the pandemic has a way of kind of accentuating those differences. And we can talk about that when we do our Q&A too. I'm also so inspired by our students. My students in our spring class, many of them getting ready to graduate, had no idea what was in store for them. The last 6 weeks of school would have been the toughest times of their lives. And they weathered through it. They did their classes, they did their work, and they inspired me to keep pushing and working hard, because if they can do it, so can I. I also learned about the resilience of the students who didn't graduate but stayed on, who were in other classes and rising students, because to deal with the pandemic now and the incoming classes and getting ready for school, so difficult. And all of you can reflect on your own struggles with that, because every single one of us had that. And it's different to do it at 17, 18, 19, 20. I'm the father of 17-year-old twins. So I understand a little bit about what it's like for seniors in high school to deal with this. But for college students, I think it's even more dramatic and more complicated. And you also had the international aspect of this. One of the best parts about Stony Brook is how international, how diverse it is, how people come from various backgrounds. And I learned so much from them on a daily basis, but during the pandemic and in preparing for classes and getting ready for the school year, I've learned even more. One of the things we did was we adapted and we created a course called Digital Innovations in Journalism. And in it, I'm not expecting you to read this. This is just to show you that we have a syllabus. And if anyone writes to me, we can share it with you. Sree@sree.net is my email address. And what we said is that the pandemic has accelerated decades of trends: the rise of digital, social, mobile, the death of newspapers, the spread of disinformation, and media organizations are scrambling to survive. Thousands of jobs have been eliminated, and this is a moment of great trouble. But like all crises, this is also a moment of opportunity. So our students in our class that we're doing together, they learn about the state of innovation. They learn to produce innovative work themselves, and they put together a news prototype in the work that they're doing so that they can add to the knowledge out there. So let me tell you a little bit about how I spent my spring and summer. I spent it starting with a university, with an orientation for another university. I was a keynote speaker for a 3-continent MBA program. And I would like you all to think back to your start of your first day of your graduate program or university, not this year, any other year. And you know the excited feeling you have a first day. And this is a 3-continent program. So you get to travel and all of that. But these were the words being used. Why was April 7th? And this is not normal. And this is how we started thinking about all that was going on. In the meantime, I'm teaching classes. One of my flagship events, what's called Social Media Weekend, we put it all online so that we could not cancel our events the way everyone was, but be able to produce work together and put it because people want to learn. One of my hashtags is #alwaysbelearning, and I'm always looking to learn and understand where things are going. We saw all the changes happening in social media, and I thought this was a good time to work with our friends at Muckrack, and together we built what we're calling the Buzzin' Dozen, which shows you the state of social media and all the different tools and where they are in terms of usage. You can look at these numbers. Some of them might surprise you where Twitter is, but how much noise it makes for where it is. And look at all of that. TikTok became, during the pandemic, the fastest channel to 1 billion users, but it also dropped in a following month. It dropped 120 million users because India banned TikTok and 59 other apps. That happened in the middle of the pandemic. So if you would like to see this, get a screenshot. We'll give this to you in full screen so that you can have a screenshot of this as well. And we'd love for you to tweet this with the hashtag #BuzzinDozen. And always looking forward to your comments and questions as they're coming in as well. And we are, the other thing we did was we launched a daily global show around the pandemic and covering 3 crises: the health, racial inequality, and financial crisis. And we're on episode number 190 tonight. So every single day we did this, flying the Stony Brook flag and being inspired by Marshall and my title. I couldn't have the title of digital innovation and just sit still. So we launched this, and this became the basis for some of the things that we're teaching in class. And we had incredible guests, and we're hoping to have Michael himself be a guest on our show one of these days. And one of the things we noted right from the beginning is that at a time of pandemic, the emphasis on having diversity disappears. And so we counted the number of women we booked on our shows from day one. We started by booking women and emphasized booking women. And you can see, we show you on the screen, accountability. And so whenever you're doing a panel online, ask the same questions you should be asking when you're in person. What does the diversity look like? And I'm conscious of that every single day for everything we do. As you can see, I basically spent the summer interviewing people and trying to understand the crisis around us. I got to speak to Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, who is the chief scientist of the World Health Organization, Joe Stiglitz, who is the Nobel laureate economics professor, Tom Friedman, the New York Times columnist, Sapphire, the author whose novel Push became the Oscar-winning Precious, and so many other folks, my friends at Justice Aid and my friend Sunny Slaughter, Adam Server, who wrote one of the most important articles about the crisis, all of those people among the 350 people I interviewed. And Sapphire said something to me that has haunted me since we spoke. She said, we're always saying, wash your hands. Did you know that there are native communities in America where there is no running water? So what do you mean, wash your hands? And so we all have to pay attention to what is happening. And they don't have water because of COVID. They don't not have water because of COVID. They don't have water on a regular basis. And that's what we all need to fight and help change. We also got to do, somebody sent me a WhatsApp message saying, I have a crazy idea, my friend Vikas Pota. And in 35 days, we created the world's largest gathering of teachers, 100,000 teachers in 3 languages in 88 countries. And we're able to do all of that because of the innovation ability that technology makes it so easy for all of us to do this kind of work. And I'll say on more than one occasion, I said to our team, I'm doing this because of my title of digital innovation. One of the things we learned, the time has changed. Time is no longer 60 seconds, and 60 seconds is a minute, and X minutes in an hour and a day. It's all changed. Time has slowed down dramatically and expanded dramatically. I like to say that 15 minutes in an online conversation basically feels like 25 to 30 minutes. 45 minutes is at least an hour. And so keep things tight, keep things simple, let people go on and off anytime they want, so that you're not trying to hold them hostage for too long. And I hope I keep to my own advice. I shared with you already the link to my slides. So if you want to jump off at any time, you can. But I truly appreciate you all being here. Please share this right now with your friends and family. They can watch the recording later. Just retweet, post, tag your friends, anyone who's interested in this kind of subject matter. The other thing that time has done is slow down. And so it's speeded up, and it is sped up and slowed down at the same time. And so when people will say to me, when did we last see each other? Was it 6 months ago or 6 years ago? We don't know. And when I'm doing my show and I say it's the 189th episode, it could be, the 4th episode or the 3000th episode. It's so hard to keep track of time. The way we work has changed is another lesson I have learned. And I'm not talking just about this, about being virtual. We have learned that we can trust our employees, that we can trust our colleagues, we can trust our students, that people are working harder than ever before, and they're delivering. If they're in a way, they're working in a situation where they're a knowledge worker, as they say, rather than being one of our great first responders, or people working in pharmacies, and people who are delivering our food, and all those folks have no choice but to go in. But those of us who are lucky enough to not have to go in like that, we have learned the value of trusting our employees, and I hope that continues as we go forward. We also learned that everything has changed, that so many aspects of our lives have changed, but we have also learned that nothing has changed. We have learned that we are wedded to doing certain things. We are stuck in our ways of communicating and talking. We are always defaulting to our old ways. The things I said about diversity are exactly that, that people who wouldn't host a all-male panel in real life are now hosting all-male panels online, some folks, right? Thinking about diversity, who are the different voices we need at the table? Who should we be listening to? And that's one of the things that Stony Brook has taught me. I have never been in classrooms that are so diverse, diversity in age in some cases, but more importantly, diversity in ethnic background, diversity in the economic class that they're from, and how hard the students work while also going to school is so, so impressive. One thing that hasn't changed is this is my favorite and most important slide, that the scarcest resource of the 21st century is human attention. And this was said by Les Hinton, former publisher of the Wall Street Journal. You can tweet him now and say, we're talking about you, Les. And we now find it more difficult to get people's attention because there's just so much going on. And we have to fight for that attention in every way we can. Another lesson I learned, journalism has led the way. Journalism, at a time when it's never been so much attacked, led the way in storytelling, in calling attention to the crisis, in helping us understand what's happening, new ways of video storytelling, new ways of charts, new ways of helping our audience. That's the good journalism. But bad journalism has also led the way, where you have seen things like masking being debunked on camera. You have seen social distancing being laughed at. You have seen so many other things that I don't want to get too political about, but just to say that when the history of this period is written, there will be names of journalists and so-called journalists who had a pulpit and an opportunity to save the lives of their fellow citizens, and they did not. And it's not just in America, all over the world, as we saw the rise of nationalism through all of this. We saw things change in the way that people are thinking of offices, and we also saw how we are looking at a single tweet, in this case a tweet about Jack, and Twitter can kind of travel all over. And I got booked on interviews from this single tweet. And so journalism, while it continues to be so much about big ideas, it's also about small ideas and paying attention to it. So I come back to that importance of always thinking about social media and upping your game any chance you can. Another lesson is that journalism is in great peril at this moment, and we all need to pay attention. More jobs have been lost, more operations are shut down because of financial issues, and in some cases where people who can't see the light at the end of the tunnel are using this opportunity to lay off people and to cut down. There's also a time when we are attacked as the enemy of the people, when we are the people. And we all, not just at the School of Journalism at Stony Brook, but everywhere, need to stand up for journalists and for journalism. You can do your part. You can subscribe to a local newspaper. You can subscribe to a digital website that you want to have access to. I'm trying to do my part, subscribing to the LA Times, Washington Post, etc. Not everybody can afford that. Share the content that they're posting online. That's another way you can help. Another lesson is that innovation is everywhere, and that there is so much opportunity for you to think about innovation in big and small ways. Right at the beginning of the pandemic, I learned from this website. It's called donottouchyourface.com, and it turns on your web camera. And every time you touch your face, it says, "Do not touch it. Do not touch it," and it jolts you into not touching your face. It uses AI and machine learning to do that. Now, one of the questions that comes up is, what about privacy? The good news is it does not connect to the internet once you are online and you've gone to the website, so you can turn off your internet and practice with that. It really made a difference in my being aware how much I touch my face. I've not used it for a while, so you can see here I am touching my face way too much. I also liked little places, little websites and things, apps that were doing their part to be helpful at this time. You all know Bitmoji, the avatar app. I like this avatar because he has better hair than me and he's about 10 pounds lighter. And you can see everything from wash your hands to Black Lives Matter. We're seeing companies and corporations speaking up and participating and being helpful at a time when government leadership at Washington, at the state level in many states, hasn't done their part. They haven't done their part. You're looking at innovation in surprising places. And innovation can be big and can be small, and you never know when you're going to be seeing it and what you're going to do. You have to know that you must innovate now or you won't be ready for the next time. And what do I mean by that? I'll give you an example of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where I was lucky to be the chief digital officer for 3 amazing years. It was another life highlight. And there we worked very hard to be relevant in people's lives. Someone asked me, what is your biggest rival? Is it MoMA? Is it Guggenheim? Is it the Louvre? And I said, our biggest competition is not other museums. It's Netflix, Candy Crush, life in the 21st century. And I've never forgotten that. And that's been with me for a long time. So that's how we did our work, trying to be as innovative as possible, as digital as possible. And that made a big difference. Because I know there's so many students watching, I want to share this quote from my friend Norm. We do some jobs for money and some for the honor and privilege of doing the work. If we get to do both, we're lucky. I'm someone who felt that way at the Met, and I feel that way at Stony Brook. And you can see I put it on the back of a business card and was so inspired by this. And you can see the Met behind me. And we pushed at the Met to do innovation in every way we could, in bringing ancient art to life, to be influential digitally the way we already were in real life. And we pushed and pushed and pushed. And there was pushback at some points too. But overall, I felt that the work we did mattered, and it was going to make a difference when the time came, when things were truly much more digital. And of course, that happened. And this was a tweet where Tyler Green talks about the enormous investments made by the Met when they didn't need to do it, are the things that helped the Met when things shut down. And I encourage you, no matter what industry you are in, to think about that as part of the work you're doing. As we get close to wrapping up this, I wanted to say that one of the lessons is that I've been praising social media all this time, saying all these good things, but social media is killing us. Maybe I should say social media is also killing us. It's helping us, it's making our lives better, but it's also killing us. The amount of disinformation, misinformation being circulated every single day is painful to watch. And I have to fight it every way I can, by reporting it, by using the blocking tools, by correcting information, using tools like Snopes and other websites and saying, folks, this is fake information, this is disinformation, this is misinformation, please don't share it. And we all need to work on this together. You know who else says we need to work on this? And who else says that the government should be paying attention to this? Is Facebook. Here are full page ads in the Washington Post and the New York Times by Facebook in support of updated internet regulations. And this is a tweet from Andy Kroll, and they are talking about in this, they're talking about what they're doing. They have 35,000 people involved in building tools around privacy and security. Think about that number. 35,000 people are fighting the troll farms and all the other problems that are inundating us, and that's not enough. And so that tells us we all need to fight back and be strong together. My penultimate lesson is from my own QR code journey. And what I want to talk there about is that how I came to think about QR codes. I used to say I hate them, but now you see I love them. When I was at the Met, people would come to me and say, why don't you have QR codes on every label in the gallery? It would be so much easier for people to use them. And I said, Americans don't use QR codes. They will not use them. Forget it. No need for them. And that was the right call at the time. But we have seen since then how much people use QR codes. So I'm now going to show you where I am with QR codes today. Let's show you this in full screen so you can see all of these. And think of this as a pop quiz. Can you identify every single one of these QR codes that can come to me? One of them, as you can tell, is you can see my Twitter in the middle, the lower blue. You can tell the PayPal and you can tell the Venmo. By the way, if anyone feels like sending me some cash, feel free. I will donate it to the Stony Brook Strong Foundation and work that they're doing to help our students and others in the community. So if you do feel like testing out the Venmo, you can. But I want to tell you that the most important service on there is still email. In a TikTok world, email still matters. And that's one of the things that I continue to push and emphasize is email in a social media world. And so we'll give you a second, maybe you can do a screen grab on that. And then finally, I want to show you one more thing about QR codes. Here you see what is happening in the pandemic. They have realized that it's important to have QR codes that are being used on a daily basis. And you walk into restaurants now and they have QR codes. 3 months ago, it wasn't true, but now it is. And that's how things change. That's how things get better. And innovation doesn't have to be huge worldwide innovation. It can be the simplest innovation and the simplest pushing through of things that already exist can be part of it. It doesn't all have to be brand new stuff. And that's what we teach our students. And I have one more lesson before I bring back Dean Lindenfeld onto the screen. That lesson is be kind every chance you get. And I'm going to illustrate that with the story of 2 restaurants. This is also lunchtime. I'm hungry, so this was not a smart idea to end on these, but I will. There was a pizzeria that early on in the pandemic used a $50,000 line of credit to avoid layoffs and keep the pizzeria going. And that's just an amazing thing that they were able to do and an example of being strong and pushing through during the pandemic. And I interviewed the owner and learned so much from him as he talked about why he was doing this. And at the same time, there was another story about another restaurant. And you may remember that Tiger King was one of the big successes of the pandemic, at the beginning part of the pandemic. And the owner of a fancy restaurant, a trendy restaurant, who was having a worldwide hit at that moment. He was also the producer of a big of Tiger King. He was laying off people, and people couldn't pay their bills. So to my students who are watching, and to everyone else, which person are you going to be? Are you going to be this person, or are you going to be this person? Are you going to be kind every chance you get? That's one of the lessons that we have learned here. We learned, as I bring on Dean Lindenfeld, that it's so important for us to know that the science also is about kindness, right? So if you think about how it works with science, is that you have to not take the 50 hand sanitizers. It works only if I take 1 or 2 and 48 other people have hand sanitizers. That's something that people just don't understand and haven't understood, and that's where we have gotten in trouble. And with that, I will pause here, take any questions, and ask for comments. But before that, let's bring on Dean Lindenfeld. Hello, Laura.
Hi, you exude kindness and humility, and those are two values that are so important to me and to our society. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to the Loeb family for allowing us to have you work with us. What a gift. So please all go forth. Kindness, humanity, humility, intelligence, integrity, also important.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, and good luck to you with your semester and all the work you're doing. And we'll be in multiple meetings very soon, so we'll see you, Laura. Thank you very much. And to all of you, thank you so much for watching. If you joined me late and didn't get a chance to get the slides, what I'm going to do now is just to show you a rewind so that you can just go all the way to the beginning, and you'll see where you can find the slides and watch we'll be right live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. As soon as this is over, this will run again and you can watch. But for now, you have the QR code if you'd like the slides, and the slides are also at bit.ly/SreeLoeb. Thank you to all who posted comments and shared them and posted tweets. If you liked what you saw, please tell everybody. If you didn't like what you saw, tell me. And my email address you see right there, sree@sree.net, my Twitter handle, my Instagram, and my LinkedIn. Please connect and please say hello. And looking forward to having you watch our daily global show, which runs on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube at SreeNet on YouTube. You can just hit that subscribe button. And please check out everything happening at Stony Brook and at the School of Journalism. And please watch for this incredible series, The My Life As. If you registered, we hope to get you information about our future events, including one with the amazing Somini Sengupta, who is a climate correspondent for the New York Times. And so check out all of the happenings at the School of Journalism and at Stony Brook. And with that, we're going to say goodbye to all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support, and looking forward to continuing our conversations. I see more comments coming in, and you see where the slides are. We see thank yous coming in from all over. I'm so grateful for that. And please follow Stony Brook at Stony Brook U, and also follow the School of Journalism, SBU Journalism, and they'll always be in my Twitter bio as well. And with that, we're going to say goodbye to all of you and say thank you, and please be in touch.